Today I'm going to be reacting to most valid crash outs in Gumball.
To violence, and even straight up breaking the fabric of the universe, Gumball characters seem to be crashing out in almost every episode. So in this video, we're going to be looking at the most valid crash out in each season and ranking them from most tame to absolutely diabolical. Starting out all the way back with our first crash out in season 1, the responsible. In this episode, Gumball and Darwin have to take care of Anais when Nicole and Richard have to go to a parents' evening at school. Gumball and Darwin then start treating Anais like an animal, walking her around on a leash, chewing up the food for her, and the final straw, trying to put a diaper on her. She can't take it anymore, so she locks the boys outside and draws up a bath. Unfortunately, she leaves the bath on for too long, and the entire house gets flooded. Gumball and Darwin are eventually able to save her, but when Nicole gets back, she absolutely crashes out, asking who is responsible.
How do you burn a TV underwater?
Who is responsible for this?
Now, I don't think there's any debate on whether or not Nicole was justified. I mean, their entire house was destroyed, so this was definitely a valid crash out. Next, we have the secret. In this episode, Gumball and Darwin are locked in the school bathroom thinking that they're gonna die. Gumball then tells Darwin one of his deepest, darkest secrets, which was that he drew a disturbing drawing in Darwin's notebook, which got him put in a summer detention program. Darwin is about to tell one of his secrets to Gumball, but just as he's about to say it, Rocky opens the door and sets them free. Gumball asks Darwin to tell him the secret, but he doesn't budge. Throughout the whole rest of the episode, Darwin is adamant not to tell him the secret until Gumball locks them both back in the bathroom, and that's when Darwin finally tells him the secret. And the secret was that he lied about how much he liked a sandwich.
You know last week when you made me that sandwich and I said it was great? Well, it was just good. What?
Understandably, Gumball is furious as he spent multiple days trying to figure this out and crashes out the whole time that they're in the sewers trying to get home.
Can't believe we're in this mess because of you. Me? I said no, but you forced me to tell you. Why would anyone hold on to such a trivial piece of information?
This crash out was
It's not even that serious, man. If it was still good, he said it was great. No, it was just good. No, like
because the sandwich secret was actually a complete and total lie.
So, did you tell him the secret? No, he must never know that we accidentally uploaded that clip.
Next, we have the poltergeist.
It's not
in
even
this episode,
the real
Richard
thing.
thinks he heard a ghost in the house, when it actually just turns out to be Mr. Robinson being kept up in the attic by Gumball. His wife had kicked him out of the house for being too nice, so he stayed in the Waterson's shed for some reason, where Gumball found him and took him to the attic. Gumball first tries cheering him up by putting on a comedy show, which doesn't work, so he does the only responsible thing and electrocutes him with an electrofat machine.
Yeah, that's so responsible.
And yell at his wife to prove that he's still mean. He tries going out the window, but he falls down and hits the ground flat, and his attempt to try to get his wife to like him again miserably fails. Just then, Richard comes outside and thinks that Mr. Robinson is the ghost and beats him with the vacuum cleaner. Just then, Mr. Robinson finally breaks and crashes out on the Watersons.
I've had enough of this family. Your tacky lifestyle, your ugly house, your cheap garden shed, I'll smash it to pieces! And this is what I think of your $2 clip-on tie.
Although not the angriest crash out, this is probably the most justifiable one till this point, because in this episode, his wife leaves him, he gets electrocuted, he falls out the window, and then gets beat with a vacuum cleaner. I mean, this guy can't catch a break. But just like Mr. Robinson, Richard also couldn't catch a break in the prank. In this episode, Gumball and Darwin get into a prank war with Richard, putting salt instead of sugar in Gumball's cereal. This causes Gumball and Darwin to escalate by making Richard dance on top of the roof naked, putting him into the sea on a raft, and dropping a bucket of water onto his head. All of this is way too far and causes Richard to crash out so hard that he needed to be tranquilized.
Get off my gun!
It's no use. Eddie, tranquilizer.
Me! Alone.
But now, let's go see what the most insane crash out is in season 1. And that's in none other than the episode The Car. And surprise, surprise, it's another Mr. Robinson crash out. In this episode, Gumball and Darwin want to try to help the Robinsons after accidentally hitting Mr. Robinson's car. They do a bunch of chores in incredible time and finish every chore. Mr. Robinson begs them to go away, but they won't stop, so he lets them clean his prized car. But as soon as Gumball touches Mr. Robinson's car, it falls apart and catches fire. Gumball and Darwin then hide in the attic where they see Richard also hiding there. Richard reveals that he used the Electrofat machine, which caused him to dart around uncontrollably and hit Mr. Robinson's car with his face. He tries to buff out the dent with a hammer, but it causes the car to fall apart.
Oh, so he's the reason it fell apart when Gumball touched it.
So it's now Gumball, Darwin, and Richard's fault. But that's not the end of the story, because Nicole accidentally backed her car into Mr. Robinson's, causing it to unsurprisingly fall apart. When Mr. Robinson sees his destroyed car, he absolutely flips out and destroys the Watterson family car, while quoting Big Lebowski.
This is what happens when you mess with Gaylord. This is what happens. This is what happens. This is what happens.
They look kind of angry, Gumball.
But to rub salt in the wound, even though they were justified, the Gumball universe, see what I did there? Subscribe, didn't think they were justified. In fact, they even got arrested, whereas the Wattersons were let free. Season 1 had some pretty insane crash outs, but in my opinion, they only get more insane in season 2. And we're gonna start by looking at the most tame one in this season, which happens to be in the sidekick. In this episode, Gumball and Darwin give their video game to Tobias, which he holds onto for weeks. They ask for it back multiple times, but he forgets to bring it every single time. Gumball then decides that they need to get the game back for themselves, but this time Darwin wants to lead the mission, which Gumball does not want. Eventually, after their first plan of just breaking into the house during night doesn't work, because of them arguing, Gumball lets Darwin take charge. So then, after years, he gets to be the leader. And what is his master plan? Well, he steals Tobias's mom and wants to use her for blackmail. Gumball gets furious and crashes out after Darwin kidnapped an innocent woman.
You stole his mom! What? You said to take something he likes. Something, not someone! Have you gone totally nuts? Did I go too far?
Next, we have the banana.
Maybe a little.
Banana Joe borrows Darwin's pen and gives it back at the end of the lesson. However, when he gives the pen back, it's covered in bite marks. Darwin doesn't care, but Gumball wants Banana Joe to apologize, which he doesn't do even after Gumball asks directly. To get some revenge, Gumball then steals Banana Joe's glue and pokes a bunch of holes in it and leaves it there. Banana Joe then uses the glue to write a thank you and sorry message, but since the glue has holes in it, he gets stuck multiple times to the face, which causes him to accidentally destroy Darwin's homework. This leads Darwin to destroy everything in Banana Joe's locker and start to chew on everything, including his books, a football, and even a fountain pen. Mr. Small then brings both of the Wattersons and Banana Joe together. Banana Joe then reveals that his pen in his locker belonged to his great-grandfather, that he used to sign his name whenever he came to America. Gumball and Darwin, realizing their mistake, tried to get to the locker before Banana Joe, but they were too late, and Banana Joe completely crashes out on them. Unfortunately for him, he crashes out so hard that he knocks himself out. Next, we have the words. In this episode, Darwin wants to learn to speak his mind, but he literally can't because he cares about other people's feelings too much. He sees Gumball speak absolutely freely, which stuns Darwin, so he asks Gumball to help him be more confident. The first thing Gumball does is make him drag himself across the ground like a dog because it's funny, but then he actually tries to help him out. Darwin takes him to the person who he wants to speak his mind to, that being Leslie. Leslie keeps mixing around his words to act smart, and Darwin finds it extremely annoying. Gumball tries getting Darwin to speak his mind, but he can't until he literally pushes it out of him, which causes Darwin to crash out on Leslie so hard that he deflates looks like a balloon. Next, we have the castle. In this episode, Darwin and Anais get to spend Saturday with Richard in charge, and this means that they get to do whatever they want.
That cannot be
without
a
any
good thing.
rules, chores, or responsibilities.
That's not going to be good.
They go to the store and buy a bunch of stuff that they want.
This
Harold
isn't going to end
overhears their
well.
bosses no rules, and when they get back home, Harold asks if he can join them because he's tired of rules in his house. Richard, who could never say no, lets him inside, and 15 others. They trash the house, and the family gets kicked out. So Richard tries to stand up to
They
them.
got kicked out of their
to
own
no
house?
avail
How
until
does
Nicole
that even
comes
happen?
back and snaps her fingers, causing a shockwave. Then she tells everyone
Freaking
to go clean the
Thanos
mess
snap
and
over
get
here.
out.
The hell?
After Harold refuses, she makes him look into her eyes, where you can see a bunch of souls swimming around. And this causes Harold and everyone else to follow her order immediately. And finally, the most insane crash out in season 2 is the finale. In this episode, the Watterson family receives consequences for all of the damage they've caused in the past 2 seasons. This amounts to millions of dollars in lawsuits, them being banned in every store, and the kids having to restart school. They try their best to revert all of this, but it fails so spectacularly that they end up in jail. Eventually, they decide to do what they're best at, which is pissing everyone off. This causes everyone in town to crash.
Why would they go in the same jail? Anais, Darwin, and Gumball would have been in juvie, and Nicole and Richard would have been in a regular jail. Like, why are they in the same
breaking
jail?
through the Wattersons' window, wanting to literally murder them, to which they almost do, until the credits start playing.
The only thing that can save us is reality being completely reset by some kind of magic device!
Now, the crash outs in season 2 were no joke, but neither are the crash outs in season 3, and we're going to be starting off this season by looking at the episode The Mothers. In this episode, Gumball, Darwin, Banana Joe, and Tobias all argue about who has the best mom and deserves the superest mom title. They put their moms through a series of tests, which they have to pass in order to earn points. Whoever has the most points at the end wins. These tests include walking across oil, fighting off customers, running along an escalator, and a bunch of other grueling tasks. Eventually, Nicole wins despite Tobias's mom cheating. But when Gumball and Darwin reveal that they were the reason behind all of this, she understandably crashes out on all of them.
Come closer. Would a superhero do this?
Get in the car, you're grounded!
Next, we have the password. In this episode, Gumball, Darwin, and Anais' computer has been password locked by Richard and Nicole, who want them to spend less time on it. Even though it's Anais' turn, the boys throw her out of the room and try to break the password. They try a bunch of different passwords, until a password clue pops up and says it's favorite child. They try Gumball, but it doesn't work. Then they try Darwin, but still nothing. Until they try Anais and it works. Gumball is extremely mad at this and wants Richard to love them as much as they love Anais. So they try a bunch of different things, like making him a sandwich, a bath, and even trying to save his life from a dog. But none of these things work. In fact, all of these things really just injure Richard. So they try their last option, which was to edit a video to look like Anais was saying a bunch of bad stuff about Richard, which really hurts his feelings. However, he realizes it's fake and then crashes out on the boys for all of the stuff they've done to him the entire day.
That's it! I've had it with you two! You've choked me! You burned me! The steak you fed me was undercooked! I think I need to tell you off, but I've never been the bad cop before! What would your mother do?
She'll tell us to go to our room.
Thank you! That's really helpful! Now go to your room!
Next, we have the bros. In this episode, Gumball tells Darwin that he wants to propose to Penny, even though he's just 12. But Darwin is mortified by this because he thought that Gumball loved him the most, not Penny. This
Okay,
causes
buddy.
Darwin to try
What the hell? Those are different kinds of love. Love isn't friendship. Love isn't romantic for her,
a bunch
though.
of things to try to make Penny look bad and to make Gumball love him more. This includes
It's like most Alabama shit ever, bro. You want to marry your brother? Yes, you're not by blood related, but you're still brothers.
includes beating her
It's
in
like,
dodgeball,
hey, yo, pause
like,
moment.
literally injuring her, even though she's on their team, sneaking into the women's locker room to look at her diary, and eavesdropping
The fuck
on her
is wrong with you, bro?
conversations. This
You're
leads
doing too
Penny
much.
to break up with Gumball, as she thinks she's coming in the way of Gumball's relationship with Darwin. This makes Gumball crash out at Darwin for acting so immature that he ruined Gumball's relationship. Next, we have the money. In this episode, Gumball, Darwin, Anais, and their parents go to Joyful Burger for lunch. They go to order food, but their card doesn't work for some reason. Larry tells them that the card has been declined and there's no money. They immediately look at Richard, who reveals that he converted all their money into gold and threw it into the ocean. Nicole crashes out so hard that she had a Hulk-like transformation.
What was the point of making it turning into gold if you're just gonna throw them gold
But
out?
is calmed down by Richard.
what?
Personally, I think she could have crashed out even more, maybe to an astronomical level because of this. Because all of the money she earned in that account is now literally just gone. And the most insane crash out in season 3 is the boss. In this episode, Mr. Robinson realizes that his grass is too long, which makes Gumball and Darwin burst inside their garden and offer, or more accurately, beg him to help. Before he even has a chance to respond, Gumball uses Darwin to mow the entire lawn in seconds, until he sees one blade of grass too long, which Gumball pulls out and causes every plant in the garden to die, causing Mr. Robinson
What?
to crash out so
That's
hard
unrealistic,
that he
but
literally
okay.
loses stuffing. In fact, he loses so much stuffing that he may die, so Gumball and Darwin need to get Rocky to donate his stuffing to save him. But now, let's move on to season 4, where these crash outs only get more insane. But before we get to that, come on. I see that you're not subscribed. How are you watching this far into the video without being subscribed? Do me a favor real quick, just go down and subscribe real quick. It helps the channel more than you could even imagine. All right, now let's get back to season 4, starting with the most tame crash out in the season, in the parking. In this episode, the Watersons go to the mall, but they cannot for the life of them find a parking space. They try everything to get a space, with them killing multiple people in a deadly pileup after Richard tries spray painting Ace. Gumball just straight up stabs the security guard with his keys, trying to raise him up to let them have a new space. Eventually, they waited for hours for this old lady to get to her car, but she just took the bus, so it was a complete waste of time. In this episode, there were multiple crash outs from the entire family, and if you've ever tried to find a parking space with all the spaces filled, you definitely understand how annoying this is. And I gotta say, these crash outs were pretty valid. Next, we have the Wicked. In this episode, Gumball and Darwin see Mrs. Robinson feeding the squirrels and ask for some food themselves. She surprisingly gives them some of the food, but they soon realize that this kind gesture was just a lie and that it was actually coffee beans. Gumball says that Mrs. Robinson is pure evil, which Darwin does not believe.
He gives squirrels
they gotta
coffee
try
beans.
and find her heart. First, they tried taking her to a nursery, but she ends up swapping the names around for the babies, which causes Gumball and Darwin to try to get to the root cause of why she's so evil. So they look through old things in the attic and find her childhood photos, where she's drowning her brother and burns down a school. Mr. Robinson tells them that there is no reason why Mrs. Robinson is so evil, and she just turned evil for the sake of it. Darwin doesn't believe this, and does one final thing to prove that she has a heart. He pretends to choke on a Kinder Egg in front of the house, but she just throws the toy in his mouth, causing him to actually choke. Darwin refuses Gumball's help, but Mrs. Robinson doesn't do anything. Eventually, Darwin gives in and lets Gumball save him, and then he has a massive crash out at Mrs. Robinson.
She needs to pay. That is the only way for her to learn. She needs to pay!
Next, we have the disaster. In this episode, Rob comes back with a universal remote that can control anything in the Gumball universe. He uses this to torment Gumball by making his family hate him, making his parents break up, and almost killing Penny. This was probably the worst situation that Gumball has ever been in. So when he meets Rob, he absolutely crashes out and tries to defeat him. Next, we have the pest. The episode opens with Gumball and Darwin hearing loud noises in the attic, So they go to investigate. They then see that it's none other than Anais beating the life out of one of her stuffed animals and almost hitting Gumball. He initially thinks that she's mad at him, but in fact, she's mad at this other kid at school, Billy. Gumball at first thinks that Anais is bullying the kid, but when Anais tells him that she's the victim, he crashes out so hard that he turns Super Saiyan. It's nice to see Gumball actually act as a good brother, and crashing out after hearing that your sister is getting bullied is 100% justifiable. And finally, for the most insane crash out in season 4, we have the romantic. In this episode, Gumball is texting Penny, but they're talking almost entirely in emojis. Gumball gets mortified when he sees that Penny sent him only 1 heart emoji instead of her usual 3 emojis. He thinks that Penny doesn't love her as much anymore, so he sends her on a treasure hunt to help her rediscover her love. Let me remind you, Gumball is doing all of this because of 1 emoji. So you may think that it's just a regular treasure hunt, but you'd be wrong, because this treasure hunt leads Penny through some dangerous science experiments, allergic reactions, and even the desert, till she finally gets to the forest. There, she's cornered by a bunch of wild animals, but Gumball comes to rescue her, until he breaks his ankle. Penny tries to transform into her dragon form, but the only way she can do that is if she gets angry. Gumball tries his best to make her angry, but none of it works. Then he reveals that he did all this because Penny sent 1 heart emoji, which causes her to turn into a dragon and save both of their lives.
And all that stuff I put you through today, oh, it was because you only used 1 heart emoji instead of 3.
Are you insane?
But now, let's move on to season 5. And the most tame crash out in this season isn't the worst. In this episode, the Watterson family all come for dinner and say that they have the worst life possible. However, unlike the pizza, all of the family's grievances are actually valid. Gumball and Darwin crash out because the boys in the locker room make fun of them for using a feminine soap. Then Nicole talks about despite how hard she works, she can't get a raise or promotion since the men at the top floor look down on her for being a woman. And then Anais talks about how no one takes her seriously because she's a kid. And instead of listening to her, they all just pinch her cheeks. So everyone in the family had very reasonable crash outs, except for Richard, who was upset Larry wouldn't beatbox while holding a bass.
It's funny because bass is spelled the same as bass.
Mr. Watterson, do you intend to purchase the fish this time?
Next, we have the best. In this episode, Gumball is just trying to live his life, but everything he does, Carmen just criticizes and nitpicks. Although Carmen is usually right with everything she says, it's still extremely annoying. However, Gumball will not take this lightly, and transforms into an SJW warrior, and crashes out and tries to give Carmen a taste of her own medicine. However, Carmen is able to fight through this, and Gumball loses the argument, which is what you get for using Tumblr for your research. So Gumball finds out that his arch nemesis Rob has a new arch nemesis after Gumball saved him all the way at the beginning of the season. This causes Gumball to get super jealous of Banana Joe, Rob's new nemesis, because Gumball really secretly liked how much attention Rob would give him. So he tries everything in his power to get Rob to hate him again. Most of this includes sabotaging his plans with Banana Joe. One example being dressing in a banana suit to get Rob to hate him. But this leads Banana Joe to give him a cease and desist letter before he can eat the poison that Rob gave him. In the end, Rob sets up an elaborate trap that will 100% destroy Banana Joe. However, Gumball comes in wanting to help Rob. Unfortunately, this help is more like torture, as he destroys all the elaborate hard work that Rob set up to take out Banana Joe, causing him to completely crash out at Gumball.
But he probably likes it because that's what he asked for. So probably doesn't really care.
Next, we have the catfish. In this episode, Gumball and Darwin find their Grandpa Louie on Elmore Plus after seeing that he has no friends, a really sad bio, and him posting to no followers. They then decide to pose as a girl named Muriel, because following your grandparents on social media is cringe. They begin chatting and hit it off to the point where Grandpa Louie just consistently texts them about everything, mostly about Granny JoJo, and he gets so graphic that the phone balloon literally unalives itself. Gumball and Darwin get sick of this and come up with a plan to come clean about Muriel. But just then, Grandpa Louie says to them that he wants to be more than just friends on Elmore Plus. However, as soon as this was about to happen, Granny JoJo sees all of the text and gets absolutely furious and crashes out so hard that she almost attacks the real Muriel. Seeing your husband text someone, "I want to be more than just friends," is quite horrible to go through, so I'd say this crash out is valid. But finally, for the most insane crash out in season 5, we have the test. In this one, Gumball, Darwin, and Sarah take a BuzzFeed quiz on which sitcom character they are. When Gumball does his, he's labeled the loser, which he takes huge offense to. However, Darwin and Sarah agree with this result, so Gumball tries to be more likable and not the loser, which means not insulting anyone anymore. For most people, this would be easy, but for Gumball, it's literally like swallowing poison. But it works, and people do like him more. Unfortunately, this leads to the dynamics changing, and Tobias being the loser now. He acts super anxious, and takes over Gumball's family and friends. And at the end, Gumball decides enough is enough, and takes all the venom he's been holding in, and has one massive crash out on Tobias. But now, we're gonna move on to season 6. And the first crash out in this season is in the Revolt. And you can tell by just the title alone that there's gonna be a massive crash out. In this episode, the items are all fed up with how the humans treat them. So with the help of Darwin, they set the stage for a revolution. So basically, the entire plot is just items crashing out at humans. Next, we have the One. In this episode, Tobias just starts to randomly act like he's Gumball and Darwin's best friend. Which, if you remember all the way back in season 1, in the episode The Third, they literally paid Tobias to be their third. So look how the tables have turned. When they see Tobias acting like this, they get really freaked out, because Tobias isn't even in their top 5 best friends. So why is he acting like this? Eventually, the boys get back home and talk about how weird Tobias is, and then he just randomly comes into their house and makes himself at home. Gumball and Darwin say hell no, and they crash out so hard that they drop kick him straight through the door, all the way to a different country. Unfortunately, we couldn't see the full crash out, and only the aftermath of him being kicked out, but it was still really funny and very justified, because Tobias was being a total creep. Next, we have the candidate. In this episode, Gumball and his classmates are all stuck in the gym auditorium while their parents have a PTA conference, which is just an excuse to party. They party so hard that they all pass out and leave the kids unattended in the auditorium. The kids are all so disillusioned and disoriented, partially because of how long they stayed in one room, and partially because Nicole passed out and accidentally started turning the heater on. So the kids decide to form a government, and Gumball is elected leader after giving an impassioned speech about change. What change? He doesn't specify. Eventually, the kids figure out Gumball has no idea what he's talking about and almost lead them to their death. So they crash out and put him in a medieval torture device. Next, we have the sucker. In this episode, Darwin sits next to Julius Oppenheimer Jr., the kid who is always in detention. After talking with Darwin, Julius realizes that he is extremely naive and can trick him into being his lackey. However, every time he asks Darwin to do something, it just ends up with it becoming good. For example, when he asks to cover Mr. Small's van in dirt, he builds these impressive sculptures out of dirt and decorates Mr. Small's van, making it look way nicer. Eventually, the gang leave Julius as they think Darwin's useless, so to prove that he isn't, he takes Darwin on a mission to break into the school. At first, they need to break through the door, but it's locked, so Darwin takes Julius's credit card to nudge open the lock. But it instead falls through, and now his card with all the details is locked inside the place they're trying to break into. Next, they need to get through the garage door, but when he asks Darwin to roll through, he just aimlessly rolls on the ground, causing Julius to drop the door on his foot. Darwin tries his best to get him out, and eventually he does after a while. So long, in fact, that the police arrived, so they need to hide. Eventually, they hide in the park, but the police are there too. So to look inconspicuous, Darwin kisses Julius, but unfortunately, his girlfriend was there watching, so she breaks up with him. Although the cops are gone, Julius crashes out at Darwin as he lost his friends, his money, his girlfriend, and now possibly is going to jail because of Darwin's stupidity. But the most insane crash out in season 6 is in the episode The Pact. In this episode, Gumball and Principal Brown sit together on the bus, and they talk about their respective girl troubles. For Principal Brown, his girlfriend Miss Simeon has terrible breath. It's so bad that multiple students literally die because of it. Gumball's problem is Penny's laugh, which is really weird and awkward. So Principal Brown and Gumball make a pact that they're gonna confront the other girlfriends about their problems. Gumball tries everything he can to tell Miss Simeon that her breath stinks. He even puts all the answers to his test as dental hygiene, but she still doesn't get it until he just straight up says it to her. Now that Gumball has held up his end of the deal, Principal Brown must too. He decides nah and breaks the promise, which causes Gumball to start following around Principal Brown creepily and even appearing in his nightmares. When they get to school the next day, Gumball goes straight to the office to confront him, but Principal Brown does everything in his power to stop him, including literally getting students to beat him up. Eventually,
At this point, Gumball, you tell her yourself that you don't like her laugh.
Gumball gets to his office and has a massive crash out where he destroys everything in the office. But now let's move on to season 7, and the first crash out here is in the boring. In this one, Gumball and Darwin realize that Molly's stories are so boring that they can literally stop time, and they are amazed by how literally nothing is moving. However, this leads them to accidentally destroy Tina's artwork, which was a really important piece of dinosaur culture. However, Gumball and Darwin do not care for the explanation, and instead wanted to figure out a way to fight Tina. They use Molly's time-stopping powers to stop time and train in the art of wizardry. However, this doesn't work at all, and Tina crashes out, chasing the boys across school and wanting to beat him up. But Molly is able to stop her before absolutely annihilating Gumball and Darwin. Next, we have the Thing. In this episode, Gumball and Darwin try to help Richard figure out what the thing is that he needs to remember that Nicole asked him about. Now, Richard tries his very hardest, and while the kids go to get Granny JoJo, Richard talks to Nicole. She reminds him of the hundreds and hundreds of times that she told Richard what the thing was. However, we can see that Richard was not really paying attention to any of this and was just super out of it. He asks Nicole for a clue, to which she crashes out and summons the wrath of God before Richard tells her that he remembered. Next, we have the burger. In this episode, Gumball and Darwin go grab a bite to eat, but they find out that their usual spot, Joyful Burger, is so unhealthy that even Boogie2988 would have a heart attack. They try finding something actually healthy to eat, but they realize that healthy food is extremely expensive and contains things that are actually unhealthy. They then figure out that this health food store is actually owned by Joyful Burger. Darwin has almost had it at this point, almost losing it in the store, but then they realize that they can grow their own food. They toil away in the garden for months and make their own fresh food, but eventually, once they're done and are about to eat some, Larry comes to tear the whole thing down, ordered by the CEO of Joyful Burger, which makes them realize they need to get straight to the top and confront the CEO of Joyful Burger, who is literally just a burger with a face and says that he's never gonna change his ways. The boys then both crash out and eat the CEO. Very subtle messaging, I see. Next, we have the traffic. In this episode, Nicole drags the entire family to Daisyland. Every year, Anais has been wanting to go to Daisyland, but something always comes up. Usually, one of the family members would do something stupid, which would get the whole trip canceled. This time, though, nothing was gonna stop them. Well, until the entire family has a panic attack and starts tweaking. Nicole tries her best to push through and get Anais to the park, but after she rams a bunch of cars, she gets pulled over and all hope seems lost. Anais accepts it and tells the family that it's okay, but they just can't accept that and crash out so hard that they get a purple aura around them like they're in JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. They put Anais in the car and their rage takes them all the way to Daisyland. And finally, we have the most insane crash out in season 7, and it's in the letter. In this episode, Darwin writes a really sappy love letter to Carrie and puts it in her locker. Right before, she says how much she hates love letters and thinks they're cringe. Darwin panics and tries to get to the letter before Carrie sees it. He's eventually able to, but then Darwin accidentally gives it to Hector. Carrie gets extremely mad and crashes out because not only does she think that Darwin cheated on her, but she thinks that he cheated on her with Hector. Imagine being mogged by someone whose face you can't even see. Like, I 100% would have been mad too. But finally, we're on to our final season, and we're gonna be starting with the synthesis. In this episode, we see Yuki and Nicole at school as their daughters brought them there for an event. This goes about as well as you could imagine, as they both manage to embarrass their daughters, which makes them feel really sad and cringe. They then get the idea to Dragon Ball Fuse in order to impress them. They come back as Nico Shida and show the school their new moves. But fused together, they're even more embarrassing than before, causing their daughters to crash out so much that they fuse too. Next is the punishment. In this episode, Nicole is mad at Gumball because he got detention, but Gumball only got detention because he was late to school because of Nicole. But Nicole is mad because Gumball woke up late and that's why he's late to school. And the chain of blame continues. This crash out was totally invalid, but eventually, when Nicole is driving Gumball to school, they see this person whose poor driving forces Nicole into a tree. They find out the person who did this was Mrs. Parham, and they absolutely crash out, rightfully so, as anyone who drives that bad deserves the worst. Next, we have the survivalists. In this episode, Gumball and Darwin see Naked and Afraid on TV and want to replicate the show. So along with Richard, they decide to survive outside naked for the day, while Nicole and Anais attend a protest. Eventually, a bunch of animals break into the house and lock the family outside. When Nicole and Anais come back after seeing the state that them and their house were in, after explicitly telling Richard to act like a responsible adult, she reasonably crashes out.
Why do you think he would actually do that?
Next, we have the labels.
You actually think he's gonna be responsible? That's on you.
Darwin find out that Mr. Small is replaced by a new guidance counselor. Instead of actually treating the kids as human beings with complex and conflicting emotions, she just labels them with one word. Eventually, this gets so bad that the kids start going insane and crash out trying to fit their labels.
You can't label us anymore.
Wait, I can't read it. What's it say?
And finally, the biggest crash out in season 8 is in the score. This episode revolves around Ocho and his anger issues. We first see him crashing out like usual, but he actually wants to change his ways, so Gumball suggests that he downloads this mindfulness app, but that doesn't work. They try a bunch of different things, but none of them seem to be that effective. So they take a look at why Ocho is so angry to begin with. Ocho then shows him all of the things that he has to deal with from a day-to-day basis, like bills, and his mom being financially irresponsible, which gets Gumball and Darwin to understand why Ocho is crashing out. And in the end, they also crash out about how unfair he has it. Well, those are all of the best crash outs that I could find in Gumball.
That's gonna be the end of the video. Bye, guys.